Some of my greatest revelations came when I was agitated reading scripture. Certain things you see that almost, looks as if it is the antithesis of what you read. It's within that moment you see things, man, and it's like where the challenge is, do you still believe? Do you still believe? So believing in what a word says comes with no wavering. So it's like you present something as though, like, I believe would help me in my unbelief. See, what that's actually doing is saying you're going to cast your cares. You want to give the effort, but there's doubt and weakness in your own limitations. It's like you're basically communicating, I know that I have to do this, but I don't want to do this. Can you help me? That's one of the harder things in life to do, is that work on an inner man. That moment of having to be still and sit still by yourself and not have distractions, but be still and deal with that voice, that voice of reason, that voice of truth that tells you about you. Sometimes it might not even tell you about your situation, but it's going to tell you about you. It's funny how that voice deals with me. It tells me the truth. It doesn't tell me about my situation or what is going to be resolved. The funny thing is, like, I remember when, in the story of Job, where, he had lost everything. He lost his wealth. He basically lost his prosperity and his posterity. So he lost his wealth, he lost his family, and his health was attacked. And he had his three friends around that made things even worse, because they were basically telling him, it was his fault, or was a bunch of other, ridiculous things, or something that he did, or whatever like that. He even had his wife basically tell him to just curse God and die. She basically offered him the fruit of deceit, right? He didn't follow, just like Adam did, right? So he held on. He might have murmured and complained, but he held on. And God had ripped him up by his spirit and told him to be a man. Now, this is in the midst of him losing, his offspring, his wealth, things that would externally validate him. He lost everything that would make him a man, or just like everything that would probably make you a man to you. What is he? Who is he? He even felt heavy laden about the day of him actually being born. And God gripped him up and told him to be a man. Because it was really just a bet. See, sometimes, the devil tests you. Sometimes you get tempted. See, the thing is, this is how it goes. God puts things in motion, the devil tempts you. And it's your choice. What we call responsibility is your ability to respond. And as that increases, so do you. So does your state of mind, state of being. And this is where your growth comes from, in the spirit. See, a lot of people want to talk about different things that are pretty much the same. I want to talk about things that can actually help you to grow and come to the actualization of who you are. Because overall, I want you to evolve through as I'm evolving through. And I don't want to give you that cliche, colloquial of better things are to come. Because you're living in the right now. And the thing is, you'll always live in the right now. You wake up tomorrow, it'll be right now. 20 minutes later, it'll be right now. I think I've said this before. Is there salt in your conversation? That means if there's salt in your conversation, it changes the flavor of your perspective and your mouthpiece about the situation. Now, I've received some rather peculiar news today, and I was tempted to go into my flesh. I was tempted to just throw in the towel. I've been wrongfully accused as well as falsely accused of something in one aspect. And something else is just, something entirely different, but it's both just life, That's why I talk about don't worry about tomorrow, because the evil of today is sufficient enough. The things that actually can happen right now is sufficient enough. You're plagued by distractions, good and bad. Not only from the macro distractions, but also the micro distractions, because it's the conversations that are around you as well as the conversations playing in your head. You got to be able to silence both of those. And hear that one true voice. Even if you don't hear it, you got to really be still and wait until you hear it. And where that has been a challenge, even for me to say, I'm going to be all the way honest with you. Patience isn't my thing, but I'm learning to be patient because through being patient, right, it's killing the anxiety. Through being patient, it's killing my flesh. See, you learn patience by being put through the process of patience. Because not only do you learn patience, you learn long suffering, you learn forbearance. Man, that's 3 chords right there. Patience, long sufferance, and forbearance. They all have the same meaning. Not entirely, but it's very closely knitted and closely related. That's why when people say certain things, yeah, you should be, here. Yeah, we all know that. But I know why I'm not there. One of my toughest battles is that, and I would say even my anger. But I manage that pretty well. You don't really notice it. You won't notice it, but I notice it. And certain people, they try to provoke you, but I'd advise anyone with any type of ability to reason and exercise common sense not to. I don't want to get too far into that, but just take heed. But anyways, suffering, where it says count suffering as something to be joyous about, because what is it in the suffering that you find? Well, you actually find yourself in suffering, for one. You find, clarity in suffering. A lot of people don't realize that. You find clarity in suffering. You find strength, untapped strength in suffering. Because it's a challenge to remain peaceful while you're suffering. It's a challenge to remain silent while you're suffering. These are the ways of Christos. This is the process of the olive being beaten until it's permanent light. This is the process that makes you godly. Because every king is formed and shaped, that is spirit formed, spirit filled, spirit shaped in darkness. See, it's not only just having courage under fire, but it's having patience under fire. It's having a level of dexterity under fire. It's having balance under fire. Things that you see, things that you know. to count your suffering as a blessing in disguise. It's hidden. That's why I call it disguise. It's hidden. For you to find that jewel, that treasure. Because it only happens two ways, man. You know, this is what determines manhood. To me, at least. Because pressure, the pressure of life will either break you or make you. Because there's only two types of men. Those that fold under that, and those that rise from up under that. Which one are you? That is the salt. This is what increases in value. You don't really get to choose your trials. You don't really get to choose your inflictions. You only have a choice in how you respond to your inflictions. Response versus stimulus. The best way to actually deal with a situation that occurs when it comes up is just take a deep breath. Brace yourself for 10 seconds. And tell yourself you're going to be fine. You're more than a conqueror. Something I'm giving to you. I really didn't necessarily have a notebook or a concept of certain things. I'm just basically telling you something. I feel like this message is for somebody. It might not be for everybody, but it's definitely for somebody, and that's what I create for. You know, my material is really just a conversation for one person. Blessings and peace.